Hi Sharon, good to be with you again today.
You too, Mark.
Today we're going to talk about the meddlesome sibling.
So, as a sibling myself, what do I need to ask myself to ensure harmony?
I guess one of the questions we ask is, do you have one sibling who seems to be overly in control of mum or dad's estate planning issues when they're getting to an older age? Do you have, and this is an important question, do you have one sibling that suddenly wants to take charge of mum and dad's affairs?
You say it's an important question, but why is that?
Well, because what it does lead to, Sharon, is resentment, conflict, and potentially biased outcomes, and occasionally it can lead to contesting of wills, and that's just the last thing that you want to happen.
But does that really matter? After all, we all love each other,
Sure.
and we all want to do the right thing by one another. So, thinking of it as you've just mentioned, what important points should we take into consideration, and what should we actually address?
Look, everything you say is actually very true, and the truth is that when I meet with people, what I say to them is, at the end of our process with you, I want to make sure your kids still get together at Christmas and are still friends. I think that's the greatest outcome that we can create for our clients, and I think most people want that as well. But occasionally, if you don't have good communication, things can fall apart. And I know that most people think, yes, I've done my will, my kids all get on now, I've put my will in the cupboard, so they just assume that everything's going to be okay when they pass away. But with lack of conversation, all of a sudden, and for the reasons I'll list in a minute, things can really turn to dust afterwards. So let's just go through the 5 points. And I think the first point is, Sharon, it's really important to have full family consensus when the parents prepare the estate plans and review the estate plans. And I think it's a really important part to make sure you involve your children in your estate plans when you're going through the process. And that's all of your children, not just some of your children. I think this is where sometimes plans come unstuck. The second point, it's important to not give an individual child and the role of executor by themselves. When you're choosing executors for your estate, in most cases you either stick them all in or you stick none of them in. And I think that's a really important part to take into consideration as point 2 is don't have one of your children as executor of your estate, keep them all in, or have none of them in and have outsiders as executors. Point 3, it's important there's no perception of favouritism towards one child unless you've got a reason that you've explained to everyone, or it's a logical reason which people can easily understand. Point 4, we'll go back to again, is that's communication. It's just paramount at all stages that parents and siblings communicate thoroughly and openly. The minute you get one child trying to take charge, then that's always fraught with danger of, as I said, favouritism and so on. And point 5 is one in, all in, as per the involvement in the estate in regard to executors. When you're having conversations, just get everyone involved, have family consensus meetings, which is one of the tools in our process. Have a family consensus meeting so that everyone knows what your intentions are and there's no surprises when you pass. I think the greatest cause of contested wills is people getting a surprise when the will is read.
So what is the next step from here?
Well, I think, as I said, it's always been our want, and certainly in our process with our clients, is that you have family consensus meetings, and by that just have a conversation with the kids, get them all together. Have a facilitator there. Sometimes if you've got a conversation you want to have with the kids where it might be a bit testy, have a facilitator there to be the bad guy. So the mum and dad are the good cops and the facilitator can be the bad cop. But also that gives children the opportunity to raise any issue they want to now rather than after you pass. So communication is obviously the very important part of it.
So how would engaging your services make a difference to me?
Look, as I've already said, really what our process will bring to the table is the opportunity for the family to have the family consensus meeting, to have the conversations and so on. And I mean, the reality is, in regard to the transformation between people who go through family consensus meetings and not, is that if you don't have a way of having general consensus and you allow one child to take control, you're always going to get a biased or skewed outcome, or you're going to get the perception of a skewed outcome. So even if that one person has the great intentions and wants, even if they come in and they meddle, so to speak, and they have great intentions and honourable, so that all four get what they're entitled to, it's the perception sometimes, even if it's not the reality. So don't get yourself in a situation where you allow one child to come in and start running things. Make sure you engage all your children, and what you'll do is go from having an estate where there's potentially infighting, contested wills and bad blood, where children are never going to talk to each other again. The alternative to that, if you do it properly, is that you're going to have kids who will get together and still love each other at Christmas.
Thank you, Mark.
It's a pleasure.